俺はルフィ、海賊王になる男だ。
Hey everyone, this video was a discussion that was a part of the Blackbeard guide. The Blackbeard guide really isn't in here, but we talk about just quite a few things. Enjoy the discussion. It's a great day here at Kekfilet's Patreon, YouTube, etc., exclusive Prime chat. I have with me the Enigma. How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good.
Good.
Glad to be here again.
Great. It's been a minute since we did like I believe it was a Black Yellow Luffy video. And,
Yep.
you know, I wasn't exactly looking forward to another Black Yellow Luffy guy. We've already done 2 together. And with all the masterclass fun that happened, I'm glad that you stepped into the world of playing another deck. And now we have a Blackbeard guide. And a lot of people are interested in it now, especially after there's some results this last weekend in Japan, and then obviously, you know, you've just been kind of shredding on it lately. I guess this video, guys, is going to be segmented. If you already know, use the timestamps, and then we're just going to go over Enigma and talk about Malaysia for a bit, and then we'll go into the actual guide. So, how have the tournaments been there lately? I've noticed there's been like a lot of 4-round tournaments. I don't understand the difference between like FS or your other tournaments.
Yep. So it's a bit of a down season right now. Because we had flagships, which are basically it's like local events specific to each card shop that get run once a month. And previously that was where we could win the serialized 10 cost ace. If you've seen that around. But we just had a new season, so serial aces are out and the flagship Utas are in, if you've seen the 1-cost Utas. But yeah, apart from that, it's kind of been a down season because other than that, there have been no real big events going on. So we've just kind of been playing flagships. But we're about to go back into Wave 2. So for those in the West, in the East, we finished Wave 1 qualifiers for Worlds a few months ago. And we're about to head into Wave 2. So now there are like the equivalent of regionals in the Philippines, Taiwan, Thailand,
Okay.
and then Singapore, Malaysia, all that.
So is there like a lot of traveling this next couple months? Is that
Not for me personally,
okay?
but I know a lot of people who are traveling. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Most of our tournaments are gonna be in O9 format. We've had O9 format in the East here for about 2 months now, and we're gonna continue having that. We personally, not many of us expect much of a big change in OP10. We think Dofi is still gonna be really popular, but that's the meta that we're gonna have for Wave 2.
Okay, got it. I mean, obviously, Law always makes waves, whatever deck it does, but I'm assuming it needs more support because this is a more balanced Law than the previous 2. With how that goes. Okay, great. So things have been doing good. Tournament season's kicking up now, right? Or soon. When does OP09 even come out for
For us, it comes out in December, so it actually comes out around the same time that O9 comes out in the West.
Okay, sweet. So we're only 1 set behind, not 2 sets behind.
We are.
Okay, yeah. We're slowly catching up. I think it's going to be a crazy world when you see West and the East in the same meta, which I don't think will happen in my lifetime. Almost, you know, like it may not be the same thing, but we're just so you guys know, we're kind of looking to look at Blackbeard now rather than in, you know, let's say a month from now, because well, people are already pre-prepping for nationals over here, because nationals here is in early January, like the first week, and there's a last chance qualifier that's OP09, and some people only got into that tournament, so they have to hope to win that one to get into nationals and then also play nationals. And I mean, I know a lot of people that have gotten into nationals, so they're just like kind of cruising on cruise control until they get to they practice OP09 for Nats, which honestly, You know how hard a tournament is when they have to qualify for it. Like every player is like really good. You'll see really good players like bottom tables, and you don't feel as bad because because it's just like it's a pure luck factor. I don't know. What's your thoughts on like an OP09 in general as far as like deck choice? Pick is it deck choice? Is it like actual skill?
I do think it's a bit sacky. Personally, because the format's really fast now and it's really aggro based. What happens now is basically, Dofi's leading the pack, and so if you're playing a mid range or aggro deck, for example, if you're playing the mirror, you could just get Jinbei diff and bounce law diff, and then you could just lose from there. If you're playing purple Luffy because you want to play an alternative aggro deck, the problem with that is if you play purple Luffy and you go second against Dofi, like it's actually just abysmal. And then you can also just play other decks like Shanks, like Lucci and BY. But I think the meta is just kind of sacky now. Going first gives whoever's going first quite a marginal advantage. And there are some matchups where if your opponent sees like perfect curve, like you just can't really beat them. Like if you're playing Dolphin, you play into a Shanks and they see Yasop into Whitebeard into Rayleigh, like the chance that you win that game is almost zero.
Okay.
Likewise, if you're playing Bonnie into Dofi, for example, I think Bonnie's favored until the Dofi sees like one Gravity Blade and one Red Rock, and then suddenly you just start losing the game.
Okay.
So I think the meta is kind of sacky now, in that going first or second swings the matchup quite marginally.
Yeah.
And just seeing one specific tech card, and if your opponent can't match that, it can spiral out of control.
Yeah, that sounds like a big downside for. I mean, there's a lot of Dofi players. A lot of Dofi players have to tech for too much, and you can't really tech for that much, right? Which maybe that'd be like a whole nother video, because I mean, obviously, I'm super interested in Doflamingo, right? And it's tough because you literally have to. Every deck is tech to beat you, basically, or like made
It's
to
true.
beat you.
It's true.
It's kind of an outdated leader, in my opinion. So that's but at the same time,
it's carried by Jinbei.
It's carried by Jinbei, yeah, exactly. And so and obviously there are cards like Jozu that people hate. The people over here love the Marshall D Teach, the 2-drop right now. They're really big on that. For some reason, I'm not a big fan, but then obviously cards like Red Rock or Raging Tiger only come up when it matters, and most of the time people are only preparing for the mirror because it's the first week of 8.5, right? But OP09, it's going to be completely different, where you have to prep for literally like a Nell, which is like terrible. You know, it's like it's a pretty bad matchup for Doflamingo, but like Doflamingo, that's all it has is bad matchups. It feels like. So I don't know.
I think it's a pretty diverse meta in 09. And the thing about diverse metas is like we've seen in 07, like your deck could be favored, but if you crash into like a really unfavored matchup, then you're just unlucky, and sometimes it's really hard to beat. But I don't think the meta is as rock paper scissors ish as 07. I think the meta is definitely more diverse and, let's say, balanced now. A lot of the decks power ceiling is kind of around the same level, which is why Dofi I think is just the best deck in the format, just because it has answers to everything. It's really hard to low roll, and in terms of power level, like you can match almost every deck in the format.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's for Dofi, it's very consistent, right? Literally the most consistent deck because it does the same thing. But I guess kind of the reason you're looking to play Blackbeard, right, and to begin with, you were saying that, well, you're playing Black Yellow Luffy, and if people high rolled against you, right, then it was tough, right? I guess any deck high rolled, which is basically it's a high roll format. And that's why you switched to Blackbeard, because does it kind of stop everyone's high roll in a little bit? Like it makes it kind of boring and like it's a regular game for them, or what's? I guess my question is why Blackbeard now? Like why would you tell people to try Blackbeard?
So, whenever I pick a deck, I always think about what's in the format. If you're really thinking about winning, I think play a good deck. You know, like don't handicap yourself, because I think in most card games, if you have a solid deck, that's already like at least half of the match, like half of the work done. If you have a good deck, like sometimes the list can just carry you to automatic wins. So in O9 meta, if the West follows what the East is experiencing, what we're basically having is we're having a lot of blue Dofis. And in response to blue Dofi, we have decks like Shanks. We still have Lucci in the meta because 8 cost Moria is still pretty good. But Lucci's like pretty inconsistent now. Just because if you low roll on Lucci and you don't see Moria, or you mill Moria and your hand is just like 5 dead cards in a hand of 7, like you can just flop and die. But if you high roll on Lucci and you see like 2 cost Uta into 3 cost Brook into a Rebecca into Moria, then like almost no
you
deck
can never
beats
lose.
you.
Yeah.
But Lucci's still in the meta. Bonnie has returned to the meta, simply because 8 cost Kid is a decent wall against Dofi as long as they don't see Red Rock. And if Lucci falls out of the meta, then Bonnie can come back. And then we also see decks like BY kind of still hanging on. It's not a bad deck, but it's just no longer best deck in the format. And Purple Luffy as well, just because they got some extra cards. So all of these decks, the meta is like really diverse. And if you were to play any of the decks that I just mentioned, you have a clear weakness within that meta itself. So if you play Bonnie, obviously you struggle against Lucci. You can still get high rolled by Dofi if they see like Red Rock. BY Luffy lists now are starting to play 4 cost Kuzan and 6 cost Raigo. You know, they're playing 6 cost Raigo. I said this on the channel 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Yep. So even if you stick an 8 cost Kid on the board, like it doesn't necessarily guarantee your matchup against BY. I still think it's extremely favored, but yeah. So if you play BY, there are people playing Bonnie and there are people playing Purple Luffy. The BY into Purple Luffy matchup is almost unwinnable if you go second. So it's like every deck has a really glaring weakness. Except Teach. I think Teach is almost favored into everything in the format except Dofi. And granted, the matchup against Dofi is incredibly hard, but after thinking about it, if I'm gonna play a deck that's not Dofi but still has a pretty good position in the meta that we're currently having, Teach is just really good because it has at least 50-50 against everything, and you just need to cover your Dofi matchup.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I would say then, and that might be a good angle for a lot of people to look at, right? The only weird outlier is the mirror, but that's just it's probably not as bad as I'm thinking it is, like compared to like Dofi mirrors, right?
Yeah, Dofi mirrors are the most abysmal mirror that you will ever play.
Yeah, exactly. It's already becoming an issue here. I've kind of been looking to make a video telling people they need to go fast because they're going to go to time, right? You will go to time if you don't like hurry up the game. Or also there's a lot of newer players joining game now, and they pick up Dofi and they have no clue what they're doing, like a simple game plan, and they just lose board and they lose the game. So I don't know. But with that though, Blackbeard consistent in its way, and it has good matchup percentages.
Like, don't play Teach if you're lazy. I think like you know, like you can play a lot of decks, and a lot of decks will just like high roll. Like you could play a deck that has the potential to high roll and it can carry you. Especially if you're playing like 10-round Swiss, right? If you're playing 10-round Swiss, do you really want to play a deck that you have to think every single game? And so,
exactly.
Like,
well, it's Nationals and LCQ. It's a 9-round tournament, and then Nationals is probably 8 or 9 rounds with a best of 3 top cut of top 30. Top 32. Yeah, top 32. Which I don't know. I think that's a big pig. That'd be a big thinker, you know. For
you guys are playing best of 3 too. Like we're playing best of 1 in the East.
Well,
so,
yeah,
like,
we don't. We do it. It's a 2-day event for Nationals. The second day is best of 3. It provides more hype, and it's really. I don't know how it is for you guys, but it's essentially it's almost like a con or like a thing where people meet up and there's a lot of side events going on, a booth selling a ton of product. It's more, the game is more of a promotion to actually buy the product. That's how we view it, and that's how Bondi views the West, is just a way to sell product and it makes some more cash, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how it is over there, but here it's not like just to go to a tournament and play a tournament. It's a whole like people get dressed up, they do like scavenger hunts, and they have you promote. Like during the scavenger hunt, they have you promote everything, and it's a money fest. Like people are there buying, selling, trading cards. I'm there when I'm doing my event. I'm actually doing a trade up. I show everybody a card I have on my phone, and it says trading up. And I go up to every content creator, because every content creator will trade up with you. I post their picture on Twitter, and I'm like, I traded up from like a $14 card to a $100 card over the 2 days, right?
I see.
So it's a content creator special, and it's pretty beautiful. Especially, it's a lot of scalping and like the side events. That's a whole nother mind game of side events, because do you know how our side events work for Nats at all?
Don't you guys have like a Swiss side event where if you win 5 rounds, you get like a
you get something? You get something similar. That's how it was, but for Nats it's different. It's a ticket system. I think you had something similar, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so you can like literally get uncut sheets or serial cards with enough tickets, and people would combine tickets. Now I don't know the full metagame of ticketing, because people were like literally like, well, like basically they're buying tickets, right? But you can't walk up and just buy tickets, because that's kind of against the rules. So you kind of have to have like this hush hush, this. I did no side events because I was just doing content, right? But I heard there are people like flying from outside the country to come play. They would like combine their efforts. They would like win the first side event, and like maybe like a couple like tops like X1s in the side event, and then they go and buy all like the expensive cards like right away. Like if you weren't in this first side event and you didn't like win it, you missed out on like a $6,000+ like uncut sheet and serial card. So because that's what everyone was going for, was those like high ticket items, which are really hard to sell in the West, like uncut sheets, because it's just ridiculous, you know.
I see. I would have thought that there would be a demand for it. We do have a similar thing. But we don't have uncut sheets. We don't really have anything that cool. I think the most that we have is like Dawn. Like we have the black Gear 5 Nika Dawn.
We have that. It's like in the center circle. Yeah.
Yep. That's the one. So but there's also like a hard limit on how many we can get. So we have a stamp system where you win a game, you get a stamp. The max you can get is 10 stamps, and then you have to trade like 4 stamps for 1 Nikadon.
Yeah. The problem is it's so hard to get. I don't know how the side events are ran. It's difficult. It's a line fest, and like I don't even want to jump in line for an hour.
Yeah, it is.
Right. That's like the biggest problem.
You have to queue like an hour and a half to play 1 game, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, and they have like a weird system too. Like for day 2, they let, if you have like the competitor badge, like if you're playing in the event, like not the side event but the main event, you can get in early. But people would legitimately, let's say there's 3 of us, and 2 of us, like one of us is not in the, like they're just at the side events, right? So they're not actually in the main event. We both walk in. I take both badges, walk back out. I give a badge, we both walk back in, you know? And so they can like get in early, so they can get in the queue early to get in the side events. It could be better. I didn't do that, by the way, whoever wants to quote me. I just heard people doing that because I didn't even play in a side event at last Nats.
We had a TO who, so basically there was a side event, but the queue was like really bad. Like an hour and a half to play 1 game. What ended up happening was the side event got closed really early on.
Yeah.
And the TO got to keep a lot of the prizing from the side event. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's a TO issue, but
yeah. I mean, I kind of wish. I mean, I wish like they would just get like a couple locals that are nearby to come help and run the side events, like each side event. Like even because people just want to play the game. I don't want to wait an hour. Like why are there just not like random like box tournaments going on? You know, like that's actually my favorite because those don't require the app at all. There's just a guy with a piece of paper and 8 names written down. And as soon as your game's done, you go to the next game. You don't have to wait a full 40 minutes with like overtime and all that. So you don't have, because when you play like a side event, it's a 6-round tournament. It's kind of long. You can only do like maybe 2 of those in a full day, right?
Yep.
But with box tournaments, if they're like only 3 rounds, and you know you pay like $15, you get like a promo, and then you're playing. If you just win the, like 3 games, you win a box. Like you're fucking rich, you know.
That's kind of wow. Wait, damn.
They haven't done that
event
for a
sounds
few
a lot
months.
better in the West.
They haven't done that for a few months, and I prefer box tournaments because it's faster. And I just remember one tournament I scrubbed out. Like I went X2 right away playing Blue Dofi, and this is like OP04 format, right? Like after Whitebeard was banned, right? So I said, I'm not playing Blue Dofi, I'm playing Queen. And I just won like box the same weekend.
I see.
And I was like,
yeah, that sounds a lot more fun. Like you just go flash farming.
Yeah, because I did that versus doing a big 192 person or a 64 man event. And and those are really hard and they take a long time, those 64 man events. And generally it's kind of lame. Because if you lose a game, you're just out, and then you have to sign up for the next one, which may take some time, and you just kind of want to play. I have a side story too about that because I was playing Yamato. This is OP06, right? This is pre-Sakazuki ban, so Sakazuki's still in. And so in the main tournament, I went like 6-4, and then in the side event the next day, I did like 2 side events, and I didn't do very well. And then the third side event, I got into the very last one. And they closed it off no matter what. So there's only 17 of us in a 64-man event. And this is like for like a pudding, you know? So the pudding is like worth like, you know, $350. I don't know if I told you the story already. But basically,
I don't think so.
Basically we go to this tournament. They basically do it by paper. And all I had to do was win like basically 4 games instead of 6. Against like 17 people, which I had like a really good player, and I barely won versus like Sakazuki and Gecko Moria. These decks, a lot of Gecko actually. And it was like, damn, that made my trip worth it because I didn't do very good the whole weekend. But it was a damaged pudding, but I sold it for like $350 at the time, which made up for my trip. So side events, I think TOs need to do a better job because it's kind of people get more experience from side events than actually the main event. Obviously we don't want the main event to be bad, but the side events is what most people experience. So if that's a bad experience, they are less likely to do more of those. But I'm not a TO, so I don't know the complications, but I don't know. I don't know how it is over where you're at. Right?
I think people here are definitely more playing it for the main event. Side event, people can just kind of go, they hope to farm as many like side event prizes and sell it to the aftermarket. But people are definitely here for the main event.
Yeah, of course.
I think region's pretty competitive. Pretty cutthroat, like yeah.
Okay. Oh god, is everybody there just like million like super rich and they're just like buying these cards and selling them like quite often? Like I don't know what kind of what is the Malaysia farming ground actually?
No, typically we'll sell it to like a we'll either resell it back to card shops in Japan or there may be people from other countries who would be willing to buy. So like if you win like promos in Malaysia, you could sell it to Japan, you could sell it to Singapore, sell it to Hong Kong.
If I can ask, what do you do?
What do I do?
Do you sell it back to the shop, or do you just kind of hold on to it and figure it out?
I sell them. So there are people here that what they do is they resell to Japan.
Cool.
So what they do is they buy it here, but they'll buy it for like a bit cheaper than market price.
Of course.
cheaper than Japan market price. But the thing is, it's still higher than local market price. Because the Malaysian market for One Piece, price wise, isn't really doing that great.
Yeah.
So people will go to Japan and resell, and then they'll buy your cards for a cheaper rate, and then they'll sell over in Japan.
Okay. Okay, got it. Yeah, but I just didn't know. That's what you do. You sell to like somebody who does that, right? They probably buy it from you and they ship it over there, and they have a guy who sells it over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If anyone wants to like get Japanese, so we can actually use English cards, but I don't think the West can use Japanese cards.
We cannot. No, but
Yeah,
there's collectors. I have
collectors,
I
right?
have collectors. If you have stuff, feel free to post in my Discord. Also,
see.
I guess we never really brought this up. I'm assuming you're still coachings. You're still doing coachings, right? When people ask for it. So
Yeah,
guys.
I've kind of slowed down on BY Luffy coaching,
Mhm.
just because O9 meta is coming up, and granted, I still think the deck is good,
Mhm.
but there are just a lot more BDIF options at the moment.
Yeah. But I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know if you've worked out like an itinerary, like of things you can coach on, or if it's just general coaching, or I think Blackbeard coaching will actually be real for you very soon.
Yeah.
To be
I mean,
honest,
if anyone wants it, sure. Yeah. I mean, bang my line
you know where to find them.
anytime. Message me on Twitter if you have any questions. Like, feel free to.
Okay, great. Well, we had like a little bit of a discussion here as well. Is there any final thoughts for Blackbeard before we end the video?
No, I think, yeah, actually, one last thought is, so I don't think OP10 is going to change anything. Realistically, all of the leaders kind of look a bit underwhelming, except maybe Usopp. But the problem with Usopp is, I just don't know whether it beats Dofi. So, but the problem is this, if an aggro deck ever falls out of favor in the meta, Blackbeard has a very real chance of becoming the best deck in the format. It's a very, very oppressive deck, simply because they're just like leaders that just cannot do anything. And even if you can do anything, like what are you gonna do? All your cards are on play. So I think it's a good deck to at least try to play. I would assume that it's not gonna be expensive to pick up at all. I think I built my entire Blackbeard deck for, in terms of like currency over there, I could build it for like 25 USD. So yeah, deck was incredibly cheap. It's the cheapest deck you can play in a meta right now. I would highly recommend giving it a try. And if you think it's not for you, then that's also fine. I think it's a very polarizing deck, but it is a very skill intensive deck, and it is a very rewarding deck.
Okay. Got it. Okay, great. Well, with that, you guys know where to find us. You have his Twitter here, my Twitter here. Join the Discord, join the discussion, and make sure you guys, all my regular videos, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Ciao.
Ciao.